Welcome to the podcast We Are Made for More with Megan Alexander. In this podcast, we'll strive to inspire people around the world to become the best version of themselves by featuring guests with experiences and mindsets that demonstrate that we are all made for more.
When Lisa DiBella, a sage of human resources, joined Megan for a conversation, they discovered that kindness isn't just a virtue, it's a leadership strategy. Imagine a workplace where compassion drives success and nurtures a vibrant culture. Lisa shares how 3 decades of her expertise in the field have proven that kindness and leadership are not mutually exclusive, but rather a dynamic duo in the landscape of work and life. Join Lisa and Megan as they share the transformative power of a kind heart, the principles of empathy, and how genuine relationship building can be the bedrock of successful teams and organizations.
Hello, and welcome to We Are Made for More. I'm your host, Megan Alexander, and this is my podcast. I'm so excited to be here today for what is our 8th episode. And I have a guest today that I'm really excited to share with everybody, and her name is Lisa DiBella. So I'm going to tell you all, as I normally do, a little bit about our guest so you know what's to come, and then we'll jump into it. But Lisa has been a human resources professional for 30 years, working in a management capacity for such firms as MasterCard International and the Expo Design Center. She recently retired with a great firm on Long Island. It was called American Portfolios Financial Services, where she was one of the executives holding the position of Vice President of Human Resources. So with that, welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Megan. I am so excited to be here. I can't tell you, really, I am. You know, from the first moment I met you and you mentioned We Are Made for More, I was so impressed. And I thought that, you know, you talked a lot about kindness. And I said, how can I connect that with leadership and kindness? Because being in the corporate world, leadership and kindness has so many good results. And so I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
That's wonderful. I'm thrilled that you're here too. And so this is actually a good place to discuss how we know each other. So far, I've known all of the guests that I have on the show. That's making it easier for me, everybody. But let's talk about that. How do we know each other, Lisa? I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oh, thanks.
Do you remember meeting me?
The first time I met you, Megan, I know, was at my godson's graduation party in my backyard.
That's right.
And I said, wow, she works for Apple for what, 30 years, is it?
Well, not so much. Actually, just hit 23 years.
23 years.
So over 2 decades.
So myself being with big companies, I said, oh, we have a lot in common. And then, you know, there is a kind way about you that I said, I know that I'm going to really enjoy talking to you. So that was our first meeting, yes. And I did mention to my nephew that let's get together with Megan. I really like her a lot.
Thank you for saying that. I felt the same about you. I talk a lot on this show about how people are drawn to each other and energy that we put out there in the universe and what's returned to you. And one of my episodes recently, I had a guest that talks about your vibe attracts your tribe. And I definitely felt that with you, like that instant connection of, wow, I like this person. I love her energy. And we had so much in common, like you said. We love talking about people and kindness and leadership and how we like to kind of work in those how we've liked to work in those environments in our life.
Yeah.
So
it certainly makes you feel good. You know, it's nice to be with like-minded people. Mm-hmm. And you don't always connect with people that way.
Nope, you don't.
No, you don't.
And that's okay too.
And that's okay too. Yes, yes.
You know who to...
When you do, it's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you tune into that, right? You tune into those connections, and if you pay attention to it and you have time for it in your life, because I know people are really busy, it's so cool to bring people into your circle and learn from them, right? Share learned experiences and get to know each other better. And it certainly lights me up. So I'm thrilled to have gotten to meet you.
Thank you, and I am as well. Yeah, you are. You just get inspired. You get so much energy from people that you have a lot in common with, and I love it.
I agree with you. And so I'm going to tell everybody a little bit more about you before we dive into our topic today. Actually, what I will say to the listeners out there is we're going to do something a little bit different today. Up until now, my episodes have really been about bringing people on and talking about their life stories, which I will still continue to do because I think that's really a cool way to get to know about people and how they navigated their life, the challenges, the successes, and transitions, if you will. But today, Lisa and I are going to talk about a topic, and we're going to, as she's already been mentioning, kindness and leadership. And leadership is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I've been in leadership in my career for quite a long time myself, spent a long time leading teams in different retail organizations, and now for the past 18 years have supported executive leadership teams myself. So it's really important to me, and I'm excited to talk about it. Lisa, let's talk a little bit more about your background, though, so when people listen in, they kind of can really translate that into what we're talking about. In your spare time, I know you've served as a volunteer trainer for Child Abuse Prevention Services, also known as CAPS. You've received certification for coursework training from the University of the State of New York and the State Education Department on sexual harassment prevention and bully prevention programs for Nassau and Suffolk counties here on Long Island. Tell us a little bit about that.
It was quite, I took a break after leaving MasterCard, after being there 20 years with MasterCard. They moved our division to Kansas City, and I opted to stay in New York. Great company. I learned so much from them. But I'm not the type to sit back. So I said, what can I do in my spare time? I had a little time between, looking for jobs. So I somehow connected, it was years ago, with a program called Child Abuse Prevention Services. And I was able to go into schools and talk about how to prevent bullying. And it was so rewarding. And, I told my own experiences. I came from an inner city school system, and I know what it's like to have, being bullied and we talked about it, and it was great. We were able to help young children in elementary school and mid-level schools to really understand that bullying is not okay. Right. And what to do and reach out to somebody that might help you. Don't join in. That's the most important thing. Mm-hmm. Don't join in with someone else's bullying because you're afraid you want to, be in the crowd. So it was wonderful. I felt great about it. Another thing that I was very inspired about, and that's how I got involved in that. And I did that for quite some time.
So did you ever have situations where, did anybody ever share bullying stories with you?
There were some children that actually admitted that there was a bully in the class, and he would sit in the back of the room, and I'd say to him, we really love you, tell us why you feel like you're bullied. But, it's something that maybe they learned from home and not intentionally, and it's control. It is a control thing. It's funny how sometimes bullies are in corporate America as well. It kind of translates. So that kind of helped me when I was in corporate America as well to recognize that. And it's, we have a zero tolerance policy, whether you're in schools or at work. I never really witnessed anything. I myself was bullied, and I told stories about it. Mm-hmm. And I remember telling a story that I had a girl that was a twin. And I'm a twin. Oh, right. Yeah. And a girl kept pulling my hair every day in school. And then she finally stood up for me. Yeah. And she went and she said, please don't ever do that again. Or maybe not with those choice of words, but she said it a little stronger. So she helped me out. So you tell stories, and kids were able to connect. They really did love that. And I was very happy to be part of that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Team.
I have to, because my kids are teenagers now, And throughout their growing up in their school district, we've heard a lot of the different like bullying programs that they have. And I wish they had that when I went to school. Like they didn't have that back in the day. And let's face it, like you just said, there's bullies everywhere. There's bullies in corporate America, but there's bullies. It doesn't matter where you go in life. And exactly, it's how was that person traumatized, or what are they going through in their life that's making them act that way? There's a lot of psychology to it. And maybe that could be an episode we do another time in itself. I think we probably could because that's a really important topic. So I love that you've done work in that space. So another thing I wanted to transition to is something that's just a neat fun fact about you, which is you participated in, there goes my screen. You participated in a pageant called Age of Elegance. I guess it was the New York America pageant. Is that correct? Am I saying that the right way?
Yeah. Yes, Miss Senior America pageant.
That's what it is, Miss Senior America pageant.
Yeah.
And this pageant is the world's first and foremost pageant to emphasize and give honor to women who can share their personal and professional achievements and their positive outlooks on life while demonstrating their extraordinary talents. I love that.
Yeah.
So what made you do this?
It was a neat program. I was actually shopping one day, and a woman and I began talking at the jewelry counter, and she mentioned that she was participating in this program, and she said that, I said, oh, that's interesting, because when I was younger, my mom worked for the Italian organization, and they had luncheons at the Plaza Hotel and the Waldorf Astoria, and I always did some fashion shows, volunteered. And I was mentioning that to her. She said, well, we need someone to participate in this. We need another candidate. And she said, do you have a talent? And I said, well, not really, but I could sing a little.
Okay.
So she asked me to come and audition for it. It was in 2019, and I did. And it was again, another wonderful program. I met professional women, and it's not about all beauty. And actually they have an elegance about them. They're a lot of professional women. We had to do a story about your life on stage, and we had a gown walk, and we were judged by a real Miss America pageant contestant.
Were you nervous at all?
I was, the most part that I was nervous was the singing.
Okay.
Because I don't think I sing great, but
you did.
I got through it.
You got through it.
I got through it. It was rewarding. It certainly stretches your capabilities.
Good for you. I think it's really courageous that you did that. Here you just ran into someone, they asked you, and you're like, I'm going to go for this. And I love when people tell stories about their life and something that they decided to try that was maybe not the norm for them. Is it okay if I read a little bit of what your statement was?
Of course.
As a pageant contestant? This was part of, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but part of Lisa's statement that she shared as a contestant. I believe that possessing an infectious, positive attitude keeps negative behavior from shaping who you are. This helps build character. With that in mind, I try to be the best person I can, always pushing the boundaries a little harder. It's the reason why I'm here today. I listen to my heart with compassion, kindness, and honesty. If I believe in something strongly, I will stand up and fight for it. And knowing there is both joy and sorrow in life, with lessons learned, the journey will inevitably lead us all to a better place. Okay, I lied. I read the whole thing. That was fantastic. I had to read it.
Oh.
So that's beautiful.
Thanks,
it shares a lot
man.
about who you are and about your heart. So
I appreciate
it's lovely.
that. It really did give me an opportunity to meet such wonderful people too. And I am still participating. I go to luncheons with all the pageant women, and there are different events that we are participating in. So it's a great opportunity to keep active in the community.
Well, that's fantastic, Lisa. And I also chose to talk about that here today because, as we said, our topic today is kindness and leadership. And that talked a little bit about yourself. And you kind of just made a statement about kindness and what it means to you. So is it okay if we kick in and get to that part of the conversation?
Yeah.
So you wanted to talk about kindness and leadership today. Let's start with what drove you to being so interested in leadership to begin with.
Well, first of all, I wanted to give you a compliment because I wanted to say that, wow,
I'll take it.
I tell my friends about We Are Made for More, and they're like, gosh, what's that about? I said, listen to her podcast because they're about kindness and, again, that connection. And that's what drove me, actually, to talk to you about this and kindness and leadership. So,
okay.
But yeah, thank you for that.
Well, thank you. And actually, I'll take the plug right now, everybody. Please feel free to follow this podcast on any major podcast platforms, such as Apple or Spotify, etc. But we appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thanks for saying that,
great.
Lisa. It means a lot.
Yeah. What led me to this? What was it? Why was I interested? It goes back to my early career. And when I used to look at our CEO on stage, and I loved the way they communicated, they connected with people. They just had this ability to remember people's names. And I was so impressed by that. They made a conscious effort, and they were great storytellers.
Yes.
Yeah. And I said, I clearly was inspired, spellbound by them, charmed, and I was encouraged to be like them. It's difficult to be a leader. It really isn't easy. You get a pat on the back when things go well, you're held accountable when things aren't going well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Simon Sinek said it greatly. He said that there's diversified personalities, but it takes courage and integrity to be a leader. That's key. But at the same time, they have a subtle approach, and they're able to share one common vision, which I think is kindness. Mm-hmm. And those are the ones that are really successful, that have the empathy, or effective communicators. Love them.
Absolutely.
I
agree with you. As I said earlier, myself included, I've always just personally felt that it was natural for me to want to be a kind leader. Okay. But I don't think that necessarily comes naturally to everybody. I think we'll get to that later in this conversation. Yeah. Because there are many different styles of leadership out there, let's face it. And it's important to have situational leadership in different situations, right? It depends on the scenario, how you lean in and how you direct and lead people is important. But we're here to talk about why kindness matters. So there's a connection with leadership, kindness, and how kind leaders consistently get great results. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I mean, I read a book by William Baker and Michael O'Malley, PhDs, and they identified surprisingly great attributes that unequivocally kind leaders share.
Okay.
And that is the integrity, the human qualities that becomes the golden standard for excellence. And that's where results come in. Because really, we could lead, we have the ability to lead positively. We know great leaders that lead positively and they get great results. And we've seen leaders that lead negatively. And although they may have followers, we've seen that.
Yes.
They don't get the results in the end. It never does. The performance may rise a little quicker, but it doesn't stay. So certainly with kindness and empathy and integrity and a moral compass, it works. I mean, leaders motivate employees. They know how to they motivate committee members, board members, clients. They recognize unique talents, and they're able to be great mentors. Haven't you had great mentors in your career?
Of course. And those are the people that you think of, like, what would that person do? I have moments of, maybe when you don't have clarity in what to do, and you might think of, what does that leader that it's been a mentor to me, what would they do here? And that's who you think of.
You do. I think I told you a story that I was working at MasterCard, and I loved just helping someone, everyone, not someone, just everyone in the department was very helpful. And there was a senior leader that recognized me. He said, we need a person in HR. And that's how my HR career started, actually.
Really?
Yeah, he said, get Lisa trained. Get her into HR. She's good. She's good with people. She has patience. And senior leaders do that. They recognize talent, and they're able to mentor them and give them the ability to be self-motivated. And it works. It works.
I agree with you. I could think of a couple times in my career where that happened as well, where I thought I was going on a certain path, and a leader pulled me aside and said, hey, have you ever thought about, one example that comes to mind is when I was in college and I had someone pull me aside and say, have you ever thought about being in management? And I'm like, well, no. I mean, I think I was 19 years old. So I hadn't thought about that yet. And that's how my retail career started, to be honest with you. And I was made a supervisor. But because somebody saw capability in me, and they said, hey, have you thought about this? So, and you just shared an example of when it happened for you. And I think those are great leaders too, that can recognize in people some gifts, skills, and talents that maybe they don't even see in themselves.
And they take the time to do that.
Right.
I mean, that's where kindness comes in.
Yes.
Because there's not everyone that will. They may just ignore it, or they're, interested in their own, they have their own agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's great when you do see that and people care enough, and also great leaders they have the ability to influence change in organizations, which again, create great results.
Very true.
Yeah.
So Lisa, how do you lead with kindness? I know that you've given many presentations in your life. I'm sure that you could share some things with us about the how.
Well, again, I'm going to start back where I was certainly impressed, and I used to think, like, are leaders born with this talent? So I want to start with that. I was convinced that they had this DNA, they were charismatic, and that's just the way they were born. They were fortunate enough to have that talent. But then in time, after I did my research paper, my master's degree, my thesis paper, I did a little research on leadership what was it called? Leadership in corporations. Leadership in the corporate world.
Okay.
Yes. And I certainly found that people who had a desire to learn, and they could learn through social influence, it certainly can be nurtured. So, yeah, that's how, so I know that it can be. You have to have a sincere desire to want to be a great leader.
Okay. So you have it starts with desire. Desire is for sure important. You have to want to be a great leader, not for the ego part of it, not because, I'm the boss, right?
Yeah.
It's because you want to inspire and build great teams.
Yeah, and you do. And I'll tell you another story that Lon, that was our CEO at American Portfolios, he demonstrates empathy and kindness always, and people admire him. He's just that way, and I'm not just saying that, he really is. And one day when I was doing a presentation, I was new there. I was a little nervous, and he and I had a conversation afterwards. He said, "You know what, Lisa? You know why people like you when you do your presentations is because you're honest."
Yes.
And when you asked the question, what makes a great leader? And those are those little glimpses that you get, that, someone says something to you that it changed my whole way of doing presentations.
Yes.
I felt so good about it. And I said, he's right.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Reminds me of, I do some Instagram reels sometimes on my Instagram page, which, by the way, is called Megan Alexander Being Real, if anyone out there wants to check it out. But one of them recently was about that, about being your authentic self, trying to show up as who you really are at work. And in scenarios, any scenario, whether it's a meeting, whether it's the one-on-one conversations that happen at the water cooler, whether it's you're giving feedback to a fellow employee. It's about being who you are. You just nailed it. When people could feel authenticity in somebody, they connect with you and they respect you because they know who you really are.
Yeah. And they trust you. You're
and
right.
They trust you.
That's the key word. We always said it. I think it takes trust, respect, and loyalty. And with that combination, it works. Whether you're in a personal relationship or a professional one, when you have those three components, it really does work. And I knew that he meant well.
Yes.
Yeah, he meant well. And I lit up. I was like, okay. And from then on, I love doing presentation. This is a different style, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm always
Tell
used
me.
to, I'm used to, standing on stage and being able to walk around. And so you kind of own the stage. And And I'm enjoying this. It's kind of almost like an interview.
Yes.
In some ways, and
Yes.
it's really great. Thanks
Yes.
again.
Sitting in a
Yeah.
in a studio environment, a little different, like you said. So, what about the power of kindness and leadership? We just talked a little bit about authenticity, but what are your thoughts about the power that kindness and leadership can have?
Well, leaders are able to share a vision. You ever go to a company where they don't understand the vision?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so, again, there was a story that was really impactful in our firm at American Portfolios, where we would do surveys every year of get a pulse of how the people are feeling. Isn't it important to understand how they feel, what's going on? Are they happy with management? And it was a third-party administrator, and it was completely anonymous. But it came back every year for a couple of years that people didn't understand the vision. So I spoke to my CEO, and I said, Lon, it comes back that they don't understand the vision of the firm. And he said, how could that be, Lisa? I get up, I do the state of the firm every year, every quarter, and I talk about it. And he said, yeah, well, people respond more to what they see than what they hear. Okay. So we created an infographic. It was so cool, Megan.
Why? What was
this
that
infographic? Was a 3-year roadmap, and it talked about these are the important things on our roadmap that we have to concentrate. And this is our vision. This is where we're going and how we're going to get there.
Okay.
It was about the people and the culture and how we train. Do they have product knowledge? Do they have customer service training? Do we give them performance feedback? Are we creating opportunities for growth and advancement? Next bucket, innovation. Isn't technology the way to go?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, technology, especially you being with Apple, technology is, are we being innovative? Are we making it seamless for our customers? Constantly looking at that. Then we brought in a quality assurance guy, great guy, had a master black belt in a Six Sigma training where he looked at processes in the company.
Oh, that's interesting.
And he was able to identify, people like to do things the old way, don't they? I don't want to change that process, but it's not effective. So this individual was able to look at the processes in the firm and make changes. And so that was one real big piece, process and quality assurance.
That's an interesting idea.
Customer service. Don't you want to look at what the customers think of us? Are they happy? We did surveys, net promoters. No, I'm not going to say because I don't remember the term.
Okay.
But they were a survey that we measured how they were feeling about us. Of course, we looked at the financials.
Yeah.
The financials were important. We had a great CFO that gave us the opportunity to look at where we're making money. Of course, that's what we had to. And then the biggest piece, which everyone that interviewed came in for an interview loved, was community service. We did a lot with community service. Our CEO did a 110-mile bike ride with disabled veterans.
That's
our
wonderful.
Company, great community service. So those were the buckets that that's the vision. So when you ask the question, what are the characteristics of a great leader? I think that's what you asked. They're visionaries, but they communicate those visions and they care. Now, we could have said, well, you know what, they're not getting it on the survey, but we didn't. We took it a step further and we created this infographic that people loved.
That was what I was just going to ask you. What was the response from employees?
We had them all over the conference rooms, everywhere. We had them at national conferences, posted places. We had when we interviewed. Actually, people that interviewed were very impressed with the firm and how we had this outline of this infographic, a 3-year plan.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we were constantly measuring. So yeah, it was. It's not easy. Not easy being a leader.
Absolutely.
Leaders are. It's a difficult job.
Absolutely. I think about everything that you just shared, and as an employee, the vision is important, so you know what you're working towards. And focusing on the priorities of the company, and then you know what you're going to be measured on as well. You know what's important to the company, so you're crystal clear on your goal and what you're supposed to be doing at work. And you know that they care about you. Sounds like everything you said is that you care about, and you care about the community with the community service and volunteering aspect of it, which I think is so important. And a lot of corporations are making that a focus these days as well.
Yeah.
Giving back.
Yes. And it wasn't only for public relations. You know, a lot of companies may do it for those reasons. No, we generally cared. We did a lot with autistic children, which was so rewarding.
Absolutely.
And, such memories that I have that I'll never forget. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
it is
wonderful.
important.
So let's talk about, how does kindness relate to leadership and relationships?
Yeah. That's interesting because, you know, I'll mention John Maxwell.
Yes.
Yeah, he wrote many books on leadership, and he nailed it on the head. He said that leaders, first of all, have to influence people. They're no different than parenting, really, in some ways. They build trust, they show compassion, they build great followers or leaders. But you have to build relationships, right? You can't build a relationship with someone you don't know.
Yes.
So you have to find out what motivates them, what drives them, how can they become self-motivated? And you don't have to be in a position of power, but you have to be in a person of influence. And that's what John Maxwell's, isn't that great?
Yeah.
Don't have to be in a position of power. You have to be a person of influence.
Okay.
Influencing people and making them see, just like the guy that said, the senior person that told me, Lisa, you know, you'd be great in HR. He recognized that. He was a person of influence. He was able to influence me. That was the direction I needed to go in.
It is,
and wow, how nice was that? As
Changed
you
your
mentioned,
life.
yeah, as you mentioned that someone said to you, and your career kind of went in that direction for
did.
it. Isn't that exciting? So I think that Kimberly Allen, I believe her name was, another motivational speaker that I met at the Society of Human Resources conference in San Diego, California.
Okay.
Loved her. She said, think of it, first of all, what leaders go through. Their budgets and succession planning, recruiting, staffing, hiring, diversity and inclusion. They're dealing with so much, and everything falls under the umbrella of leadership. But I loved what she said here. She said, if you put a mouse in a maze and you put a piece of cheese in the maze, it's not the cheese that drives the mouse, it's the hunger. So find out what makes people hungry.
What a quote.
Isn't that great?
That's powerful.
It was powerful. And you know, and Megan, again, we talk about kindness. How does that connect with kindness? It's because people care.
Because it's caring.
It's caring. That's all it is. I mean, we could have, and I know we can have managers that, well, you know what, if they don't care and they don't try hard, then that's on them. But it's not. We are responsible as leaders to find out what makes people hungry.
I think all statistics show that the leaders that care are the ones that build the best teams, the ones that build, like we talked about, trust, the ones that build loyalty with the employee to want to work hard for that person, even when things get tough, right? Because let's face it, work is a 4-letter word. It can be tough. And it comes in seasons. And so when the times get tough at work, if you have a great leader that believes in you, you like you just talked about the hunger, like you're going to work hard anyway. You're still going to be able to get it done. You know that you can maybe go to that leader and say, what's going on with your life? Hey, I'm going through this tough time right now. And they'll be more willing to work with great leaders, in my opinion, will then be more willing to work with you because you've got a dialogue. You have a relation. We talked about relationships. You have a relationship with each other. You're a human being. You're not just someone that goes and punches in and you're doing the work and going home. You've got stuff going on in your life.
Yeah.
Everybody does.
Yeah. And you're inspired and you feel good about it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, 2008, when there was a market crash, our leader said to every employee, he said, we are not going to let one person go. He had a state of the firm, had brought everyone in. It was a big deal. And people were afraid they were going to lose their jobs. They had mortgages. And he said, I will take a salary cut
Wow.
or not get any salary, so that I will not let anyone go.
Wow.
And that is a wow, isn't it?
It
It's
is a wow.
And those are the kind of things, as you mentioned, the honesty, the trust, the loyalty, that builds retention. And we had strong retention. So, I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've witnessed it.
Yeah.
And, we'd always joke, Lon and I, when we'd say, people never terminate them. We don't terminate people. We never did, Megan. I'll tell you honestly.
Really?
If it was insubordination, of course.
Yes. Okay.
But we gave everybody the opportunity to make a change. Give them the opportunity to show that they can change behavior.
Yes.
And if they don't, then they terminate themselves, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Absolutely
yeah. So
true.
that's, again, building trust and getting to, working for a firm that you really love. Leadership is important.
So this sounds like a great firm, by the way. I just want to say this gentleman, Lon, that you keep speaking of, I'd love to meet him someday. So you could let him know that for me.
Yeah.
It's so nice to meet great people like that. So, Lisa, what are some attributes of great leaders?
Well, it's funny. The attributes are they're simple.
I know we've mentioned a couple, but
they're similar to what we're doing right now. They smile.
Right.
They embrace changes. They acknowledge people. They show confidence. Those are great characteristics. They are, again, great communicators. They celebrate people's success. They check in. They're mentors. We mentioned that. Those are great characteristics. And is that the question you asked me? What are the characteristics?
No, it is. And I'm thinking about it too. Integrity. I'm thinking about it even as you say it. I'll give an example. Years ago, and I'm going back, honestly, probably over 20 years ago, but it does stand out in my mind. I was in a leadership conference, and I was in a breakout group with, everybody that's been in a breakout group before. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, everyone, we're going to break out, and you're going to go with a smaller group of people and do this discussion about leadership. And I want to say there may be, 6 people in the group, so it was pretty small. But this one person in the group basically came right out and said, and again, this isn't a show that we're going to name names or anything like that. But this is an example of something that I experienced in my life. But this person said that they didn't really care about people or their problems, that they were convinced that they were a great manager, and they knew how to drive results. It was so important to them. I get great results. I drive results. Again, this is a long time ago. So the person was new in their management career. But I remember sitting there saying, perplexed, like, how could it be that you don't care about the people that work for you? Like, that doesn't like register for me. And this person basically was saying, yeah, it doesn't really matter. I mean, so do you listen if somebody comes to you with a problem? Well, I'll pretend to listen, was kind of what this person said. And that really had an effect on me, that I even experienced this in a breakout group. Because first of all, it's foreign to me anyway. Like, how could you not care about someone? And this was one person, right? There's millions of people out there. There's actually billions of people out there. But that's an example of what not to do, folks, right? I'm sure for those listening to this show, they probably know that already. But it does exist. And that's why I'm even bringing it up. It does exist out there, that there are some people that just don't care. And I don't think they're going to go far in their careers, quite frankly, because they won't build that trust with people.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it's not, they don't go far in their careers.
Right.
I've seen it, and I've seen it even in this company, where people have strategies and the behaviors are not of what we just spoke about, all those great characteristics. And it's a form of bullying. It's a form of bullying. And what happens? People are fearful. They don't want to talk up. They clam up. They're afraid. They feel they're nervous. They're scared. That's not the kind of environment you want to be in. So, I know you mentioned that was a long time ago.
It was.
Yeah. But shame on him. Or her.
Exactly. So forgive me, everybody, that I brought that example up. Let's be honest. It's important to say that there are all types of leaders out there. But I think we're really trying to shine the light on why kindness is so important. And so I want to also ask you, why is kindness so empowering?
I think it's the greatest strength of an organization. you have to look at what, you have to be vigilant. And it's just powerful because people, I think Simon Sinek said, it just feels good. People just feel good. And that's what makes it powerful. They feel good. And then there's the trust. And we did so many team building exercises and read books. We did in this last former company. And I'll tell you, MasterCard as well as Home Depot, which is Expo Design Center.
Okay.
Great on, enforcing the fabric of the firm and the culture that they believe in respect, trust, loyalty. And those are the powerful attributes that come from a great leader, great firm. Well, it stems from the top, right?
It does.
Yeah, and then they try to trickle it down. And you have to, and that's why they have HR, that they keep, an eye out on that, and they try to make sure that there's fair practices and policies, and they're continually auditing that. People feel good. Those are the powerful things that people want to work for a firm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned Simon Sinek a couple of times today, and that's definitely somebody that I follow as well. One of his books is, I think it starts with Why.
Oh, yes.
My son is reading that book right now too, but you've mentioned a couple of, John Maxwell, a couple of other great people that folks out there should check out. And we'll also put those in the end of this episode if people want to see the bio of some of the books that you've mentioned today. So
thank you.
I think that's really important. So to wrap this up, in terms of the kindness conversation, is there anything else that you would share with the audience about leadership, kindness, or anything that's related to that?
I just think that people just have to make a conscious effort to work on it.
Yeah.
And we're all human beings, and we want to be treated well, and that all ties into kindness. I really do believe that. I mean, if we just could it's not what you say, it's just how you say it.
Yeah.
It really is, and you have to be conscientious of that.
It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
It's how you say it.
I
it's
like
really,
that.
And how you communicate it. Do it with kindness. It makes you feel great and wonderful. I know it does me.
It makes you feel great, and it makes the recipient feel great.
And the recipient feel great.
And out of for anyone out there that's trying to think about how do you maybe speak up for yourself at work, maybe there's something going on and you would like to talk about it. Don't be afraid. This is what I would say is don't be afraid to ask for a conversation with your leader and explore having a conversation about what's important to you. And as long as you're kind, I think that's the opposite of it too, right? We're talking about kindness and leadership today, but also kindness as an employee. If you approach things with an open heart and assuming positive intent, you could get to, I think, a great resolution if you have a leader that's a good recipient also.
That is so key. I mean, that open communication means a lot. And again, it's all about the caring. And it takes time and effort.
Yeah.
It does take time and effort. And if you're a good leader, you need to take that time and effort. And a pat on the back for those who do. Yeah.
I agree. Lisa, thank you for the conversation today. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you'd want to bring up? I'm sure there's a lot more we could talk about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think in another segment we could talk about maybe we talked about kindness and great leadership, and what is a toxic environment like, and why doesn't that work?
Ooh.
And so just people can understand that more. But yes, we know what works in a great environment with great leaders and individuals that work at it and continuously strive to be better. But what is it like when it's a toxic environment? And
what can you do about it?
Yeah, because some people feel strapped in that environment because they can't get away from it.
They feel trapped, and they feel, I guess trapped is the best word, because, if you have bills to pay and you're not sure how to get out or what to do. But you're right. We'll have you come back for another topic. Would you be up for that?
Of course. This was great. I loved it.
This was great. And the time flies when you're having fun. I always say that. But I can't thank you enough for coming out and being part of the show today. I think this topic is such an important one. And let's face it, anybody that's out there in the world, we want to talk about kindness and how important it is. So today it was about kindness and leadership, but we could spread kindness to many areas of life. So we hope you all leave with a kind heart today and think about that when you're out there.
Yes.
So thank you, Lisa, for coming.
Thank you so much, Megan.
All right,
Appreciate
everybody.
it.
You could follow Lisa on LinkedIn. Look for Lisa DiBella on LinkedIn if you're in the professional world and you want to take a look and look up her history. Please do that. You could follow me, Megan Alexander Being Real, on Instagram. You could also, like I said, take a look at our podcast, We Are Made for More. And please follow and share. Maybe you know someone that would like to hear this episode, but we appreciate you, the listener, for checking us out today. That's it, everybody. Peace out.
Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening. If you like what you heard, bookmark this podcast and follow Megan on Instagram. Okay, now for the disclaimer. This podcast is solely for educational and entertainment purposes. Megan is not a licensed therapist, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified profession. Goodbye, everybody.